Welcome to the realm of magic and mystery, classic horror and sci-fi. You are now entering the House of the Unusual podcast with your hosts, Eddie and Joe. Welcome, everybody, to the House of the Unusual podcast. I'm your host, Joe Pavlansky. With me, as always, is owner of House of the Unusual, Eddie Guevara. Along with us tonight is the one, the only, the horror magician, Chuck Caputo. We also have a special guest tonight, world-famous hypnotist, Michael Mezmer. How you guys doing tonight? And thank you for joining us. Thank you out in the audience for joining us once again and for supporting us. You guys all out there, you know, if you've been with us for a while, you all know myself. You definitely know Eddie and you definitely know Chuck, but we got a new guy on tonight, Michael Mezmer. Michael, thank you so much for coming on and joining us tonight. And why don't you go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about yourself, what you do, and go from there. Just a little bit about your background.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, I'm really excited to be with you guys tonight because all this stuff is my favorite subject matter. So it's really cool to be with you. For the audience, I am a clinical hypnotherapist. I do clinical hypnotherapy work, plus I do stage hypnosis shows. And I'm also an illusionist magician. I've toured to 25 countries around the world and performed for Michael Jackson and Princess Grace and Cary Grant, all sorts of people. I also hold a degree in psychology, and I work at the Unger Medical Center in Rancho Cucamonga, California, doing hypnotherapy for him and his clients. And also, Joe, as you know, I work as a writer for Scary Monsters magazine. So really cool to be here with y'all tonight.
Awesome. Thank you for coming on. And that's how, I remembered you from Scary Monsters, and we had talked a few times on Facebook back when I had the social media, and I really enjoyed your articles. I thought you'd be a great fit for this podcast, because it's all along the same lines: hypnotism, illusions, the mail order, horror stuff, all that good stuff that we're into and we all enjoy talking about. So, once again, thank you for coming on and joining us for this little conversation. Chuck, what's new with you, brother? Welcome aboard again.
Hey, it's always great coming here. Thank you so much for having me again. Nothing really new in Pittsburgh. I mean, it's been cold. The weather's been kind of crazy. I took my daily walk in the local cemetery, of all places. It's a nice quiet place.
Yeah, I'm in Northeast Ohio, so I'm about 45 minutes from you, and they're calling for snow tonight. So
yeah, it's crazy.
We might have a little treat. Eddie, brother, what's up, man? How's it going on the East Coast over there?
I just everything's going fantastic here. I was just shocked though when I heard Chuck saying he took a walk in the cemetery, just like Lily and Herman would say, Grandpa's in the walk with the cemetery tonight. I'm very excited. I'm actually looking forward to hear what Mr. Mercer there has to say, especially the places he's toured and stuff. I'm sure they have a lot to him and Chuck will discuss, and they're more like the experts of the trade. I am more like the expert of the novelty. So going on ahead. Go ahead, guys.
Yeah, that's awesome. We got two good magicians and illusionists here. So I'd like to hear you guys, I'm sure Chuck and Michael, you guys might have some questions for each other. So Chuck, I'm going to turn it over to you and put you on the spot here a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Hey, that's no problem at all. Well, first of all, Mike, it's a pleasure, to talk to you, and it's fantastic to hear you. And personally, I've always been a fan of hypnotism. I mean, throughout the years, I've actually worked with quite a few. And, what's weird, Mike, I throughout the years, I've done a lot of after prom shows. And the only act that goes well for after prom high school graduates is a hypnotist act. I mean, magic does not go over very well, especially the stage shows. Close-up magic, yes. And I've worked with a lot of hypnotists, and they do a bang-up job, man. I'm telling you.
Oh yeah, the grad nights and post-prom shows are main thing, where during that time of year we really are the headliner at those events, because, as you say, what it is the kids want to see their friends doing something, and if you do that, then you're a winner, right? If you're doing magic or illusion or something, it's great, but you don't get the kids involved. So this way they're seeing their friends up there, and for every friend up there, they have 10 friends in the audience, so everybody has a great time.
Absolutely.
And it's a lot of fun, and I always enjoy it. I just got a call today to do five post proms in May, so things are starting to pick up again, which is a good thing.
Exactly. The other thing that I always admired about hypnotism, I mean, I've actually known a few people that went to hypnotists and they lost weight. They've quit smoking. I mean, so if you want to, you know what, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about that, how that actually works, and that would be great.
Well, yeah, I studied with Gil Boyne at the Hypnotism Training Institute in Glendale, California, which no longer exists, but Gil is legendary. Also, my other mentor was Orman McGill. And so, and you probably are familiar with Orman McGill through his writings and his books.
Right.
So Orman and Gil were my mentors. And what was the question again? I got off track there. Sorry.
Well, yeah, you know what? Throughout the years, like I said, I've actually known people that went to hypnotists to stop smoking, to lose weight, and it worked. I mean, it absolutely worked.
Oh, yeah. I do the hypnotherapy for that. Right now, I'm really deep into my COVID-nosis hypnotherapy program because I'm helping people by doing online hypnotherapy with the issues that have to do with COVID and the mental challenges from COVID. Right. So it's really good work because I'm really helping a lot of people that need it right now.
What is the origin of hypnotism, Mike? I mean, you know what? I did some research online a little bit. It seems like it really got popular like in the 1800s or something, and you know what? It probably goes back to some form of, you know, almost like a translate like states all the way back to the Greek times or so forth. I don't know. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, yes. The Greek god Hypnos was the origin of it. They used to have sleep rooms that they would have, and they would go in and actually do trance, group trance, really. But it goes way, way back. I would imagine even further than that. When I was in Asia, what inspired me to study hypnosis when I was touring as a magician was when I saw the trance ceremonies in Thailand and Malaysia and all of that. They have like a ceremony called the Kinjay in Thailand. And it's a vegetarian thing, actually, but they go into the temple. They go into trance, take their God within them, is how they explain it. And then they put these 1.5 to 2-inch steel spikes from one cheek to the other through their mouth, and they hang weights on it, and they put skewers through their tongue outside of their mouth, and they walk through the streets for 12 to 24 hours, return to the temple, pull out all the spikes, all the skewers, no pain, no marks, no blood.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing stuff. So, it was that kind of thing that inspired me to want to study hypnosis, actually.
If I can bring something to the table, and I had spoken this with Mike earlier, I think it was about a week ago when we first spoke. I think also hypnosis was made very popular, especially in the late 60s, early 70s. And I think this comes from the evidence that most people love some type of control. If they can have control over other people, and in fact, most of the mail order companies out there, especially the ones that are the Get Well and stuff, they always offer you a better look, a better way in life, you'll become rich. So it holds all the points that humans or we desire in ourselves. And I think one of the greatest points, especially with the hypnosis, is back in the early 70s that I can remember as a kid, comic books were heavily influenced with hypnosis. In fact, that's when you had companies in New York City like the Barry View company that came out with the Hypnocoin.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had many companies, and I mean the comic books and especially detective magazines at the time were really filled, including Psychology Today, which is a magazine I remember as a kid, was filled with this where you can send away from the Hypnocoin. In fact, Psychology Today, even though it's a psychologist magazine, had a lot to do with a lot of the novelties too. They sold in there the Hercules wristband. They sold many of the mail order things, especially from Honor House, Johnson Smith. And one of the fascinating things about it was, I think what drew me to it is the weekends you were able to see Abbott and Costello. And when you saw especially Dracula, where he would tell, "Come to me," and he would somehow put, Costello in a trance or hypnotize him and stuff. And all the ads, if you look at all the ads in comics from the 7-Foot Ghost to whatever it was, one of the leading points they used, a phrase that always took me, always inspired me, was "obeys your command."
Oh yeah.
and that is exactly how the hypnotic world, I think at the time, started taking a lot of force into I guess every day, where you had little kids looking at all the ads. And let's be honest, American Circle Corp, when it shows the man hypnotizing the lady with the stars in the background, 25 lessons in hypnotism. I saw that ad and I was sold forever. Like, there was nothing more that I wanted than to hypnotize when I was little. And I remember even telling my mom I wanted to go to a psychiatrist so he could teach me how to hypnotize. And my mom is like, why would you want to go? I said, because they're the only ones that know how to hypnotize. I think it gave a false sense of belief that you would take control of a human and have them do your bidding. Go ahead.
Unfortunately, that's not the truth of hypnosis, but it was the fantasy of hypnosis. Real hypnosis is self-hypnosis. So literally, the hypnotist just guides people and allows them to be able to place themselves in the state of relaxation we call hypnosis. But it's a natural thing that everybody does. So you can't really do what they explain. I got that ad. I bought that ad. I bought that HypnoCoin. I bought that book. I bought the Dungeon glasses as well. But you can't really do what they say, but it was good advertising. But the thing is, it can be achieved if you use hypnotic drugs with it, like they do in other countries, like the Manchurian Candidate concept. But other than that, you can't force anyone to do your bidding just with pure natural hypnosis, which is a natural state of relaxation.
But it was a good sell at the time. That's for sure.
Oh, yes.
It was a good sell.
I bought it.
Was one of the suckers.
Me too.
Oh, yeah. Probably the only other question, probably one of the other questions I had, Mike, you know what? I've read a lot about this for many, many years, remote viewing. I guess that's tied into hypnosis kind of, right? I mean, where there's been, people that were, like as an example, maybe held hostage somewhere. And then, from another country, we would have people concentrate and they would zero in on exactly where these individuals were being held and so forth. I mean, does this tie into hypnotism kind of?
Well, I wouldn't say that it directly ties in. It seems to be something that some people have a ability or acuity to do. I imagine you do need to be able to relax deeply to be able to focus to that level. So perhaps hypnosis ties in that respect. But hypnosis is not a supernatural thing in any way. It's not like you see in the movies. It's not like Dracula, like you were mentioning earlier. It's very much a natural relaxation technique. And so you do access your subconscious, and maybe in doing that and getting that deep, you're able to focus to the point where you can ignite whatever natural ability you have to do this remote viewing.
I tell you what, Michael, I found actually about a year ago, a guy on YouTube. His name is Michael Seeley. I believe he's from United Kingdom. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He does kind of like he has self-hypnosis audio videos on there. So I've used that many times to, if I've had a long day at work or if I'm feeling very anxious, I've actually used his audio to kind of relax myself and get into that deep relaxation. And I tell you what, man, I could go from dead tired and do a 20, 30 minute, relaxation session with that. And I feel like a new person after that. And it's just from just sitting there relaxing. I mean, it's amazing.
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing is, as long as you're open to wanting to do it, it works beautifully. Like you're saying, you want to do it. You wanted to experience it. So you did. The point being, though, that no one can be made to do hypnosis or forced to do it. If you want to do it, it works phenomenally well. I was going to say one of my inspirations was Bruce Lee. I know that's not a hypnotist, but Bruce used to be on the set and people would challenge him to fight on the set all the time. And like Enter the Dragon, he would have to fight them on the set to keep his reputation. Well, it's very much the same with me. A lot of times after my shows, when I'm on tour, I go into a burger joint and kids will come up to me and say, "We saw you do the hypnosis. We don't believe you can do it, but I want you to try to hypnotize me." I said, "Well, if you want to be hyptosed, yeah. Okay." And then I'll put him in hypnosis like in 30 seconds, but you have to want to do it. Yeah.
That was going to be my question. How hard is it, or is it impossible if someone absolutely doesn't want to be hypnotized and they try to fight you? Is there a way to hypnotize them, or is that just kind of like a lost cause? Like they have to absolutely want to be, hypnotized and want to go along with it.
Yeah, the only way that can be achieved is, as I mentioned, how they do with like Manchurian Candidate, where they use hypnotic drugs to break down your defenses, and then you can use your hypnosis with that and make someone who is not wanting to do it. But For natural hypnosis, like we do for therapy or stage shows or anything else, no. If you don't want to do it, it's not going to happen.
You know what?
I can't walk around with my Dracula cape and try to hypnotize people out on the street, and so if they don't want to say, get the hell out of here.
Here's what the reality I think is. Here's I'm going to put in this 2 cents of my hair in this part. Having spent so many years as a collector and a mail order person and in search of so much mail order stuff, that, like I said, the difference that makes me different from everybody probably else in the world is that I was so much influenced by the comic book ads that I lived them. And what I mean by living them is that I found and I did every type of research possible as to what caused people to buy. I would study different things as to try to make a better ad and what people really wanted. And somehow I can't explain it, but I'm going to say one thing, for example. When we're talking about right now, what you said, Astro, which Chuck, you asked this question. What's happened was in the early 70s, especially in some comic books, and I'm talking about those comic books, one of them was titled like Love, that was more for a mature audience.
Right.
They started putting ads in that some even had witchcraft books you could buy, astral projection thing, and they started like out-of-body experience, and they started somehow trying to tie that into hypnosis, which was all a selling point. It was just basically trying to sell people a better. It's kind of like making the wheel a little better. So hypnosis is simple. It doesn't really give you the control, but maybe if we sell. In fact, I remember purchasing a book, and I fell for this when I was around 15, that said you can hypnotize a girl at the glance. She would be sitting down in a seat 10 feet away from you. You could hypnotize her and have her do your bidding.
Only if you're as good looking as me, Eddie.
Well, yeah. The point is that was sold to the public, and it was sold on, through eBay.
Right.
It was sold not too long ago. And that's what I think it is, that a lot of people know how to market. One of the best marketers in the world was Count Dante. He put ads saying he was the deadliest man alive. He made challenges. He just knew how to puff up a lot of wind and get people to believe what he said. It didn't mean he was. It's kind of like what Bruce Lee did. They were great marketing people back at the time, great advertisers, and that's what I think hypnosis also it came in. Because as a kid, I couldn't wait to order the HypnoCoin. In fact, I thought it had special powers. Do you know, Mike? And this is kind of crazy even to say that, Michael. I have every hypnotist record, book, or anything that was ever sold on the subject. In fact, one of the biggest guys, and you're going to know who I'm talking about, was out of California, Melvin Powers. And he wrote Hypnotism Made Easy. He also wrote a lot of books about horse racing and stuff like that. Those were the first books I ever sold in mail order. And I still have quite a few of them. But the point I'm trying to say to you is that it's incredible the amount of marketing that took place in the early 70s.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
To just brainwash kids. And let's be honest, who are the people that are buying in comic books? They're kids who know no better, who believe anything they're told, and they have a lot of money to spend. And if not, they do like me. When I didn't get the money, my grandfather had a little piggy bank of dimes. I would go to that piggy bank and take $2 or $3. And you know what was so funny? Let's be honest. $3 in 1970 bought you the 25 lessons.
Oh, yeah.
They bought, and here's another thing. L.E.G. Young, I think, was the one that wrote 25 Lessons in Hypnotism.
Yes.
Okay. In that book, there's a couple of chapters that deal with that astral projection stuff like that. And again, it's not the 25 Lessons pamphlet that was sold by American Circle, but you know what? It tied in a lot of different things that had nothing to do with hypnosis.
Right.
So,
well, you're talking about looking across the room at a woman and hypnotizing her. Well, the truth is there is such a thing as conversational hypnosis, and you can do that with people at a party or something, and it can influence them. Whether you can control them, that's a different issue. But you don't have to have a formalized setting or a formalized situation to induce a hypnotic state.
Well, according to what the book shows, and let me tell you, this is funny because I still have the book. It's in mint condition.
Wow.
The book itself basically puts it. it's kind of like back in the 70s, they sold another very popular book that, of course, Mr. Sucker here fell for it. It's How to Pick Up Girls, and one was How to Make Love to a Single Woman. And they were both written by the same guy. And then a little bit after that came out the book with the hypnotism. What it tells you in the book is basically with a stare across the room, you would hypnotize this female with the power. It kind of made you think that you were going to concentrate on her. And this is funny though, Mike. This does kind of work though. If you stare at a person from behind and they're not looking at you, and you stare long enough, the person somehow gets this,
absolutely.
this feeling,
Yes.
and they'll turn around. And so that part I think is kind of true.
Yeah.
But
You know what I've also found funny too is that, if people out there say, well, I've never been hypnotized or I can't be hypnotized, I kind of think, and Michael, maybe you could elaborate on this a little bit, is that we've all been watching a movie and been so into the movie and watching it that people could walk in front of us and we don't even know that they've walked in front of us because we're almost like hypnotized by what's going on the screen. Would that be a form of hypnotism as well?
Oh yeah. Well, here's the very basis of hypnotism. It's opening the imagination to the uncritical acceptance of an idea. So when you watch television, you're opening your imagination to that TV. And in doing so, you're slipping into that state of relaxation. I mean, during that time, I'm sure you've had this experience. Someone may come up to you and say something to you, but you don't have any idea what they said to you after the show because you're in a relaxed place where you feel safe. The TV opens your imagination and you go into that hypnotic state. Now, that's why it's so important what we listen to on TV. So many people, they casually watch the news and they accept these things and they're in the hypnotic state. And it really does change your thinking and how you think about life and the world. So it's very important. We're always on our toes whenever we're watching something like the television and not just let it be absorbed into our subconscious.
I guess there is a reason why they call it programming.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
I think you brought up a great point, Mike, because you know what, us doing magic shows, I mean, that's exactly what we do is put people into almost like a fantasy world for maybe 45 minutes or what have you. And they're so absorbed in it, that their concentration is like really, it can't be broken. You know what I mean?
Well, that's right. And it's suspending the critical factor of their minds and allowing their imagination to open up. And it creates a plausible implausibility factor. And then they accept the illusion or the magic as reality at that moment in that time.
What is the purpose? What is the purpose, Mike, of when you hold a coin or like a piece of jewelry and you have a person focus on that? I mean, do you actually do that during your sessions?
Well, that's a fixation point, and it can be anything. It could be. I always have people look in my eyes. However, if I'm outdoors on a very sunny day doing a show, I'll have them focus on a spot on the stage. It really doesn't matter what it is. What the point of that is to tire out the eye muscles, and that way they start relaxing and focusing on what you're saying and nothing else around them. So it's called a fixation point.
You know what, Chuck? That's pretty funny you brought that up because I was just thinking of something along that lines the other day. Years ago, and I try to work out, every day, keep myself in shape, especially, from my job and all that. But years ago, I had a buddy I used to work out with, and we were very much into doing, body weight exercises. So we would always try to compete against each other doing, just body weight squats, just as many as we could go. And we'd go up to 1, 2, 300. And I was looking, I said, I'm tiring out at a certain point. I'm kind of plateauing. What could I do? So I started doing some research because I kind of wanted to get a little leg up on him. And people said, fixate on a certain point and just stare at that point while you're doing the exercise. And it's almost like everything goes to that point and your body will last longer. It actually worked. I would pick like a spot on the wall, and I would just stare at that for the whole time, and my numbers just increased, and I wasn't even feeling tired anymore. So I don't know if, that was like kind of like I was almost self-hypnotizing myself, kind of.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As I said, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. The person does it. We don't do it. In fact, I had a friend who did a T-shirt and it said hypnotherapy because you have the right to change your own mind. And that's really what it
Right.
comes down to. And that's the essence of it. And so when you were staring at that, you had your fixation point, you're going to that zone, you go into that self-hypnosis, and in doing so, your body's capable of achieving more than it normally would because you're not distracted.
Right. I couldn't believe the results from it. I mean, something that simple, and it just takes your mind away from everything. I mean, away from having to do the job, away from the pain. I mean,
Right.
there was no pain. There was nothing. It was just me going through the motions. And as the numbers were going
That's
up,
amazing.
it was like,
Well,
almost like I was kind of out of body. I wasn't even
Yeah.
there. I was just doing the motions. It was really cool. And it got me really interested. The human brain is
it's
just
amazing.
absolutely.
let me say one thing. Let me bring in another thing here when you're saying, especially what Michael's saying here. One thing that works for certain is, like I said, when I would go out at nightclubs when I was young and stuff, and I would pinpoint, I go, man, I want to pick up that girl in the corner over there. I would just kind of like keep staring, and I would start putting in my mind like a heavy concentration into that person. And for some crazy reason, after a couple of minutes, the person somehow felt they were being watched, and they would look at you. And it does work. But what I want to say, though, is, and this is so funny when we're bringing up all this stuff, is that when we're growing up, I guess just think about anything you really like, and you fixate your point and your brain that you want to accomplish that. And that comes in same, like I always was looking for the 7-foot robot plans. It cost me to spend weeks and time where my whole life was consumed with doing stupid things like this. I driving out to Chicago, Illinois, just to get to find a company like the Melton Company. Everything, it sounds crazy. I was heavy into flying saucers, building flying saucers, everything that was from Lost in Space. So during the 70s to the present, there's not one thing I don't buy. If I see a spiral coin of some sort in the cover, for some reason, I still find myself buying stuff that deals with some type of hypnotism. In fact, I think even the ads that I write are fixated, that there's always like eyes in the background staring forward. And if you guys are familiar with the Honor House
Absolutely.
ad, where it shows 2 eyes in there, believe it or not, the eyes that you see there were actually Houdini's eyes. If you look very closely and you blow it up, because I started, there's one thing that Houdini's looking. The eyes that they used there were a Houdini thing where they kind of drew it to look like that. So where it says hypnotic control, Honor House has an ad. It shows the 2 eyes being focused, and it says hypnotic control. And let me tell you, every ad I ever write, I still find myself having to do something with hypnotism. Do I know that it's really, marketing stuff? Well, one good example is, and this is what Michael is saying, when anybody tells a person something many times over, eventually that person believes it. And if you cause enough sizzle, enough, wanting to know what's in the bag, it's like the cat in the bag thing, like what, the cat, let the cat out of the bag, whatever. If you say, I'm holding a bag, could you imagine what's here and stuff? And I keep building on that. And a good example is that book, that video that was put out by me a long time ago, which I just uploaded 2 nights ago up to my channel. If you go to houseoftheunusual.com, the website, and scroll down, Unboxing Mysteries, the Hunting Hitler video. That particular video, everything in there caused people to just go bizarre by just saying, can it be, can it this, causing enough of curiosity to build up in one's brain until it explodes. And that's what I love about mail order as a kid. That's what I love as an adult. And I still love to get suckered. See, this is one thing, a lot of people, listen, when they sell something, like a good example, I just fell for this about, and I'm sure Mike, I'm sure Joe and Chuck, you guys seen this. On Facebook, especially if you have Facebook or whatever, they're selling a pair of glasses, like blue, they're supposed to be like for looking at the computer. And they'll take the glasses and they'll run it over somebody's pants, and you see the.
I did see that. Yeah.
You know what they do? They've sold millions of them because people are still, even though it would be impossible, not impossible, because there are glasses. In fact, there was a camera they put out 2 years ago or 4 years ago that I think was taken off the market because it did allow for a person to view through somebody's clothes. If somebody was wearing a white, like a female or a guy would be wearing a something that was kind of like, little holes in it, you can actually see underneath. So that is available, infrared filters. But the point is, you won't have that on glasses. But you know what? Do you think, me knowing this, that's impossible? You think I didn't fall? I actually bought 2 pairs. One in Amazon, and I'm like, why am I buying this? And it's just the fact that that's my love for mail order. The extra glasses.
Mike, I got a question for you, which I'm sure a lot of people out there listening are wondering or have wondered. Is there any dangers or potential dangers with hypnotism?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah. And by the way, I was going to say to Eddie, that all goes back to X-ray specs anyway, right?
That is correct.
But yeah. But and I will tell you too, just as a quick thing before we talk about it, if there's danger with hypnosis, Joe, I have a new article that's going to be in the next issue of Scary Monsters, and it all opens up because I'm talking about how monster kids got interested in magic from the ads in the comic books. So awesome. You might find that one of interest, Eddie, because it's going to be a cool one. And the article is called Monsters and Magic, and it actually compares real magic that was in the film, starting with Lon Chaney and the silent films and the Thayer props in that movie, which you'll know who I'm talking about there. And so it talks about the real magic used in films and how it was utilized and where it came from and all the scenes in the films and the mummy and everything. So anyway, I thought, but yeah, it goes back to X-ray specs. Everything goes back to X-ray specs. Everything. So beyond that, as far as hypnosis, no, there's no danger to natural hypnosis. And the reason being because you're in control of it yourself. And so when you talk about control with hypnosis, yes, that's what it's all about. But it's about controlling your own mind and learning how to control your own mind. So no, there's no danger with natural hypnosis. Now, if you add drugs, hypnotic drugs with it, sure, then there could be danger because you're no longer in control of who you are or what you're doing. But natural hypnosis, no. You will never do anything or say anything or do anything that would injure you or harm you. You have a natural thing within yourself that will take you immediately out of hypnosis if it's something against your morals or you're in danger or anything like that.
Hey, Mike.
And that's one of the things I liked when I was doing a lot of those audios from Michael Seeley, on the relaxation, that he always said in there, at the beginning, that if you ever find yourself uncomfortable or that if you need to come out of hypnosis, that you can come out of it. Because, that was what I don't know much of, almost nothing about hypnosis. But when I was starting to get into it, that was one of my fears. What if my, computer or phone shuts off? Am I stuck in this, state of relaxation, until someone shakes me out of it? But it was nice and comforting to know that I'm fully in control, no matter what happens.
You know what? I'm going to ask this question, if you guys don't mind, real quick, because I want to bring in 3 things that we just talked about. One, that fear of being hypnotized and not coming out was a fear I think anybody who liked hypnosis was afraid of in the 70s and me growing up as well. I had that fear. The other thing is, there was something that was very popular in the late 70s, especially when especially the Cubans that arrived in this country and all that. It happened to a couple people that I know of. Like, say, for example, in my wife's great-grandmother or something. That really happened. Some people came over to her house. They convinced her that they were going to give her $10,000 if she gave them $500 or something like that. They take her to the bank, and she actually gives her the 500 or whatever it was. Wow. And that was common, and that happened. Now, Mike, what do you say about that? How do you think that was? How did the gypsies, which I'm sure they were gypsies, accomplish that?
Well, that's kind of out of my realm, but I would say that, it goes back to get rich quick schemes, I would think. And, there's still lots of that going on today. I mean, we have Bitcoin, right? So,
but what's so funny, that a lot of people, especially when you see, and that's where a lot of this folklore comes in, said that they were hypnotized. Oh, they hypnotized you. Right. You didn't know what you were doing. And again,
the reason that happens is people don't want to take responsibility for their own
I was just going to say that. Yep. Yeah, it comes all down to responsibility.
We're not being idiots, right?
Hypnotism's a good scapegoat.
That's right. And also, when you talk about the fear of hypnosis, which we were talking about, that goes way back. I mean, you go way back to the cabinet of Dr. Caligari in post World War I Germany, just prior to World War II. that was the first film where they had a hypnotist that was at a carnival. It was a silent film. And he had a person hypnotized 24 hours a day called Cesare in this coffin. And they would bring them out in the carnival, and he would predict who's going to die that night. Then Caligari would send him out to murder those people. So it goes, and of course, Trilby, which became Svengali. All of those early things, and even through the recent movies like Get Out that was out a couple of years back, it's all about people losing control of their minds, doing things that are evil, and maybe never regaining their mind again. So those fears are deep seated in fiction, comic books,
Right, exactly.
Soap operas, movies. But it started a long time ago, a long time ago.
Now, Michael, you're talking about Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which if nobody's ever seen it, definitely check it out. It's a great silent movie.
Oh yeah,
I believe I saw that many years ago.
That's a cool movie.
It's a
I have
great movie. But Michael, speaking of like the traveling carnivals, and we've touched on it before, in our conversations, but were there hypnotists that traveled with some of these carnivals and performed for audiences?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I wouldn't call it that I carnival, but of course I still do state and county fairs. But yeah, I mean, it was let's see, there was what was the movie you would probably know, Joe, with Orson Welles when he was a gypsy and he was a hypnotist? What was the name of that movie? Black Magic. Black Magic's the name of that film.
Okay.
And it was what you're talking about. He was a gypsy traveling with a show, and he had these hypnotic abilities that were within him of the animal magnetism and all of that. And he had ended up trying to take over a whole kingdom with it. But yeah, I'm sure that hypnosis, because it's a natural ability that's been with us forever, there are certain people that have been able to tap into it. Even Mesmer didn't know he was doing hypnosis. The original Franz Anton Mesmer thought that it was just animal magnetism that he used rods to create, but he was tapping into the hypnosis too, and he was the originator of it in many ways. And so I'm sure that through the years, carnivals from the day one, from gypsies in old Europe, probably had people that did hypnosis in those carnivals.
And a lot of them, I'm sure, were more like swindlers that used, and they used the thing saying hypnosis, and hypnosis felt, got the blame, like you guys just said, fell victim to what they were basically doing. Because there was a guy, I mean, this is a known fact, and I believe I saw it in the History Channel or History of the A&E, where some guy was sold back in the 1900s a piece of the Brooklyn Bridge, and then that same guy bought parts of the Eiffel Tower, and then because he was such a wealthy person, he was so embarrassed at what happened that the guy who did it got away. They didn't want to press charges because of the fact that it would make this guy look really bad. This guy was a baron from England or something. And he, I guess they're just smooth talkers. I mean, how many people do you have today that you have a woman who meets some guy who sweet talks her, gets married, and then you find out the guy had 4 wives? And he did the same. And this is very often.
Hey, I think there's going to be swindlers in all fields. I think this almost sounds like the book we talked about on one of the previous podcasts, Spook Crooks by Julian Proskauer. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly
and the thing you brought up, Eddie, about your family believing in certain things. You know what? My family comes from Europe, from Naples, Italy. And my grandmother swore if somebody looked at her a certain way, they gave her the evil eye. I mean, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think we've all heard that. I come from a Slavic and European background, and we've all, heard that, don't look at somebody a certain way, giving them the evil eye.
In the Cuban culture and stuff, they buy you this black thing. I forget what it is, to protect you from the evil eye. That's something that is just a myth that has come not just from the different cultures, but it's something that's grown into us. And now here's the thing that's really, funny. Well, when you see all this stuff, most of this stuff, especially like Mike is saying, are just a lot of theatrics, if I say the correct word, that come into play and convince people all this different, I guess, legends and stuff that are out there. And it's
that's the thing, because a lot of people they don't want to do their own research, or they don't have the ability to, so they get their information from TV and movies, and that's
right now
what they is fact.
Right now, I got stuck in a couple of words right there. I couldn't get them out, so it's something like that, I guess, right?
Sure.
Hey, Michael, I got a question for you. Now, do you know anything, or has there been any research done on hypnotism on animals?
Well, I'll give you a story on that. Yes, it does work well with animals. I was doing a fair in Arizona, actually, at Gila County Fair many years ago. And I was at the glorious stage that was next to the cow pens. And there was a dog next to the stage as well. And during the show, they still talk about it to this day. During the show, when I did the part we call the induction, where we actually do the hypnotic part of the show, all of the cattle went to sleep, including the dog. And then this is true story. And then they all woke up at the end of the show.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. No, because, we talked about, that you have to want to be hypnotized. So, I wonder, how would that work with animals when they don't, have a clue, or is it just because they have no thought, for it or against it, that they're more open to it?
Well, the way you learn to do the fractional relaxation, which is what you normally see, the slow version of hypnosis, although I do instant, as I said earlier, I'll do a challenge and I'll do instant induction, which takes less than 30 seconds. But when you do the fractional relaxation, which is more common, the slow, like you see in the movies or whatever, when you do that style, we're taught to use what's called a lullaby phrasing, sort of like when your mom tells you a story when you go to sleep at night, or your dad reads you a story. And so that lullaby phrasing is very relaxing. So it's very relaxing to animals as well. And of course, we use music in the show that's very relaxing along with a lullaby phrasing. So I assume it's just the sound tones and all of that places them into that.
So a lot of it plays into the frequency of what's going on,
right,
as well. Okay.
Michael, let me ask you another question here, because everybody's really ganging up on you here. I feel kind of, but
that's right, man. I hope you got your coffee brewing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I want to ask you this other question. In reality, last year, I think it's called the Hypnotic Institute of something online, and I wanted to become a hypnotherapist, and I was actually going to take the online course, which is an accredited course. The $8,600 price tag that wasn't covered by any type of student loans or anything kind of threw me off on it. Would you think that would have been a good avenue for me? Just kind of curious.
Well, I'm the immediate past president of the American Council of Hypnotist Examiners, which is the most respected association for hypnotists in the world. We have members all over the world, literally. Our executive directors in England. We have a very high level of educational requirements to be part of the association, and we only allow a very small portion of your education to be done online because you really can't get the education on hypnotherapy that you need online for your complete course. Now, any course that's less than 250 hours is not valid anyway. So because there's a lot of people that are out there saying they're hypnotherapists. It's the worst thing for our industry. They're out there saying they're hypnotherapists and they take a weekend course or a 25-hour course or whatever.
Wow.
And then they get certified. Well, there's only a few schools that are reputable. One of them is the Hypnotism Motivational Institute, which is in California, Southern California. And there's a few others across the country, but very few are legitimate. So if you're thinking about studying hypnosis, it's very important that you really do research. And I recommend always calling the American Council of Hypnotist Examiners office in San Diego. And they have a list of schools that are certified. And you can get some of your training online, but no, $8,000 for total online training, that would be a wasted effort.
Oh,
guys, that brings up a great point, Eddie and Mike, on, if people want to get into hypnotism and magic, they definitely need to do their research and find reputable hypnotists and magicians and talk with them and ask them what their opinion is. So, Michael, that's great information.
There's something you forgot to mention, Joe. If they come to the House of the Unusual and purchase the HypnoCoin with 25 offers, they come instant hypnosis, bro.
Absolutely, yep. Jump on there. But Chuck, what I wanted to ask you, Michael talked about that avenue of hypnosis. What would you tell people that are wanting to get into magic or to become magicians? How would they? What would be their first step on that? Because there's tons of information out there, and sometimes it could
It's
be just an overload, and it could maybe scare people away. So
I tell you
what would
what,
be the
that's a
best avenue
fantastic
for
question.
them?
You know, the way everything now is with the internet and kids getting into magic, I mean, it's like a total mess. I mean, kids are so confused and so forth. What I would recommend is to try to join your local ring. Okay, like out here in Pittsburgh, we have the IBM, the International Brotherhood of Magicians. If they join your local ring, uh, so that'll pretty much put you together with like-minded people, and so forth. That's a start. I would do that first of all. Okay, then try and make friends with some of the older people, and but then from there, then I would go onto the internet to try to learn some tutorials. See, the one advantage nowadays is kids have something which back when I got into magic, when I was a kid, probably 50 years ago, we actually had to read. You know what I mean? Whereas now you could go on YouTube and learn a lot of things. But I would stick to your local rings. Talk to the local magicians. Try and make friends with some of the older guys, which is what I've been fortunate throughout the years. Like there's been a lot of guys in my area that have passed since that I've made friends with, such as Tony Polito. He was a fantastic friend of mine. Harry Allbacker. I mean, they were all. I was friends with Del Rey. You know what I mean? So if you get the friendship of some of these older people, they can really teach you a lot.
One of the people that
And Chuck, I would be remiss if I didn't add, since you mentioned about rings. I'm on the board of the Society of American Magicians Hall of Fame and Magic Museum, and I would have to say there's also
Right,
these Society of American Magicians out there
absolutely.
too. So
Yes.
yeah. So I
Definitely check
have to say that, or the people at the board when they listen to this
Absolutely.
would say, "Why didn't you mention the SAM?"
Oh
So,
man,
that's
a problem.
great. That's great information. And and Chuck, you brought up the videos and all that, and I would still encourage people, because you could watch a 30-minute video of someone talking about it, or you could read a book, and you're always going to get more information out of the book. But now people have both avenues, so if you're out there and you want to get into this stuff,
Right.
Use both of them, but don't just say, well, I'm going to watch videos and not read, or I'm just going to read and not watch videos, because everyone has these tools out there to use. So, use them to your advantage, but be smart about it.
well, and not just that, but a lot of the magic online is it's not exactly the best teaching tool. So you do need to seek out, like Chuck said, the people that really are in the know. I was lucky. I was a graduate of the Chavez College of Magic back in the 70s. So I had really good training. And so I eventually worked the stage with people like Marvin Roy and people that were very well known, Johnny Thompson, all of these people. But the thing is that today there's so much of a deluge online. And I would also suggest, to add to what Chuck said, to enhance what he said, performing is a theater art. So go to your local junior college, study theater, study being on stage, study performing, because
excellent advice.
Because to make magic, you have to be theatrical and a performer first. So you can learn all the tricks, all the magic in the world, but if you're not a good entertainer, you're not.
Hey, Mike, one thing I did want to bring up also,
Yeah.
I think, now I'm not sure, what I've been doing magic professionally about 37 years, but I've been into it over 50 years. I think I saw you perform. I'm not sure, but did you ever compete at the Magi Fest in Columbus, Ohio? Okay.
No.
Okay.
No, I always wanted to do that, but no, I'll tell you, Chuck, you probably don't know a lot about me, because I've always worked for the public.
Okay.
I don't do the magic circle thing. So the last major competition, I won competition with the SAM recently, but the major ones, I haven't done major ones at a national convention.
Okay. Because the reason why I asked, my wife and I, we've been married. It'll be 29 years, and back when we were dating, probably about 30 years ago, we went to the Magi Fest, and I thought there was a guy, Michael Mezmer. I was almost positive, and
well, Chuck, I would have been known as Gregory and Kay, Masters of Magic. So a different lifetime.
Well, Michael, just a while back, about a podcast ago, I told Chuck a few things he had done and he had forgotten. So he was a man of mystery. He was so mysterious, he was a mystery to himself. And maybe you were back then and you just don't remember. But you know what's kind of funny? All of us have one thing in common. Chuck has all his life, amazed people with his beautiful magic and stuff. And you've done, hypnotic in stage and television all your life and stuff. And what I've done is kind of like I brought people back to their childhood for some 35, 36 years, telling them
Yes.
the novelties of when they were young. And Joe has been writing for magazines and telling us about horror stories all his life.
Yeah, Joe's an amazing writer. He really is.
In fact,
Thank you.
you know, one of the things I liked about Joe is he said one day to me, you know, Eddie, I'm such a good writer that I bought my own magazine. And I said, wow, that must be really good, you know?
Yeah,
But
right.
Michael, one question I want to ask you, because I've tried to do this to all my friends, and you know, I really had a great conversation with you. I am so happy to have you on this show. What was it that you wanted as a kid you didn't have that maybe I can help you with today in novelties and stuff? Do you recall?
You know, truthfully, I'm just like you. I love them all, but I always wanted to, when I was a kid, you know those Dracula things that were like 6 feet tall.
You want
those,
one of
those
those
things.
too? Everybody's asking me for the one.
Eddie's the
I'm not
man.
asking.
You know what?
I'm not asking. I'm just saying that was one that because I'm a big Bela Lugosi fan, actually. So
Awesome.
you know what I'm going to do,
That's
Mike?
the man.
Mike, it's going to be my gift to you. Okay.
oh no,
No. Listen,
no.
you were on the show. What I need you to do, of course, is I'll be getting in contact with you afterwards. But no, that's a gift. That's one way of me saying thank you. But one thing I'm going to tell you, Mike, it's been a really big pleasure having you here. And it was a great conversation. I see we come from a very,
Absolutely.
very close background with the same likes and loves. And let me tell you, Michael, one of the most, like I said, I love hypnotism. I know that it was more than bigger than life, like the stuff I sell. And in fact, if you go to my website, like I said, you can see a video of that I pulled up a while back.
I did. Yeah, I've been watching them. They're awesome.
No, did you see the Hitler's box? It's on my.
No, I'm gonna have to see that one.
Go to my
Yeah.
website and then just go up, not the YouTube channel. Go up the website. You'll see it. I just added it.
Okay.
It was phenomenal. But you know what though is, I love living life, especially like I told Chuck, and I see Chuck is just like me and Dave Harborsad and Joe. You know, Dave Harborsad is the ex-owner of SS Adams.
Wow.
And he's also partnered with me, and we bought back the HypnoCoin. It's a little bigger because I don't like people. Somebody was trying to sell some of the stuff. Like one of the ghosts I sold a few years ago, I had to stop eBay because the guy was asking like $100 for a ghost I sell for 14. And
oh wow,
they were trying to say it was from the 70s. So I told eBay that was not. They said, how? Because I make them. And so what I did with the HypnoCoin, believe it or not, it's got more spirals. And I sent one to Chuck. He knows. I'm going to let one, send one to you so you see what I'm talking about. But it's got, the original HypnoCoin had about 4 photographs, and then it was lenticular. What they did for me is instead of doing the 25-cent piece, which is about the original of the size of the original, I made it more like a 50-cent piece, and I duplicated it. In fact, if you go to the website, you hit on the website itself, not on eBay, on the website, you're going to see, and you can see a picture of what it looks like, but it's got more spin to it. Okay. So I did it with Dave Harborsad, and we did it under Acme House Novelties, which was just a company name we came up with just to manufacture that. And we bought the 7-foot Frankenstein, the green one. It was hell. I mean, actually trying to get it. In fact, if you go to my eBay, which is House of the Unusual, and then there's space between each of the words, house dash, of the. There you'll see me standing in front of the 7-foot Frankenstein because I had to make it on paper because in plastic it was next to impossible. And,
wow.
I see why people haven't tried to duplicate it since. But yes, Michael, I have duplicated for the last 35, 40 years every poster we had as a kid. In fact, this is funny that you like Bela Lugosi because I do too. But I found out that for some reason the Frankenstein on the male population outsells the Dracula, I would say like 8-1. Like in other words, every 10 people they'll buy the Frankenstein and 2 will buy the Dracula. With the female though, it's the opposite. 8 female will buy the Dracula and 2 the Frankenstein. Now, this is funny. As a kid, I didn't have the Dracula. I wanted to send away for it, but I didn't. And then later, like in 1985 or 86. I wanted it, but I couldn't find it anywhere. So in 1995, when the internet, because I don't know if I mentioned to you, but any DC comic from 1992, when I joined forces with the original Fun Factory, I ran a full-page ad in DC Comics with Blue Wise back in 1993/92 into 93. And what happened is that I think eBay was just coming around 2000, I think it was, or 1998. And one day some guy took a photograph of a poster, but they took a photograph of a Dracula poster, but they took a photograph of the box where the original poster came in. And when I started scrolling down the picture, I go, oh my God, this is the original Dracula.
Yeah.
I was able to get mine in mint condition for $78.
Oh my gosh.
$78. But prior to that, I paid $179 for one that was in horrible condition.
Wow.
Oh.
Okay. But I sold it for $200 and some dollars. So I didn't lose there. But that's how I came across. And then the same guy who sold me the Dracula in the original box sold me the Frankenstein for the same price. And this is the best part. If you have a mail-ordered Mysteries by Kirk Damaris, you'll see it inside. That's my, my 2-box versions of each one. Now, I'll tell you what. That Frankenstein and Dracula have been my best sellers. Oh gosh, I've been selling for over 20 years now, right?
Sure.
So they're printed better than the original. Beautiful photographic paper. You're gonna love that, man. And
wow, that's so nice.
I'll tell you what,
Eddie's
HYPNOTIZED is just unbelievable. It really is. It's just amazing.
Wow. Well, I love. Actually, you can do hypnosis with that coin. It's a perfect fixation tool. So actually will do. You can do hypnosis with that.
Well, Michael,
awesome. Well, hey guys, I hate to jump in here, but we're coming down to the bottom of the podcast. We got about 3 minutes or so here. So, want to turn it over to each one of you guys just to give some information on where to find you guys at, what's the best places to how to get a hold of you, stuff like that. So, Michael, where could people find you at, and how could they get a hold of you?
Okay, well, the best probably, I have 3 websites, but the one that does with hypnosis is Mezmer, Weebly.com, and also I'm going to be featured on Reel's channel on Autopsy, the Last Hours of, about a famous magician. I'm not allowed to reveal the magician yet, but it's a famous Vegas magician. We just shot it last week. It'll be out in May. So keep an eye out for that. I'll be featured on that. And also next week, I'll be at the Poteet Strawberry Festival in Poteet, Texas, south of San Antonio, doing hypnosis and my danger magic, where I do the razor blades, put my hand in a wolf trap, break arrows with my neck. So if you're in the San Antonio area, come down to Poteet and check out the show next week.
Awesome. And Chuck, what's your final last words
I've had
for
a fantastic
this week's
time.
podcast?
It was nice talking to Michael and to both of you guys. And if anybody wants to contact me, just search Magician Chuck Caputo. You could Google me. You can watch my videos on YouTube. And have a great night, guys. Thank you for everything.
Awesome. Eddie, what's your final last words for us?
The final thing is also follow us in the YouTube channel, because we're bringing a whole line of magic. Chuck has joined the company under Chuck Caputo Magic. You'll see a lot of his videos in our YouTube channel. The other thing is, Michael, when I send you the Hypno coin, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to stare into the coin, look at it good, and then call me afterwards, okay? And and one final thing I want to add, is if you look at the 25 lessons in hypnotism, that little pamphlet that came, one of the reasons so many people had to fear hypnotism is because it does say hypnotism is dangerous. Be careful how you use it. In the wrong hands, it could be. And that's where probably a lot of that came forth. Go ahead, Joe.
Okay.
You say now the final word.
Awesome. Well, again, I want to thank everybody out there in podcast land for joining us, and I definitely want to thank our guests, Michael and Chuck, for joining us and giving us this awesome conversation. Michael, we're definitely going to have to get you on again, because there's just so much more information to talk about in the world of hypnotism and magic and illusion and all that good stuff that we all love. So we'll definitely have to do this again. I know you're going to start getting busy and all that, but definitely in the future we'll have to get you on and have another great conversation. And Chuck, thanks again for coming on. And if anybody out there hasn't seen Chuck's videos on our YouTube page, House of the Unusual, check them out. They're amazing. When you get on to House of the Unusual on YouTube, subscribe to us. leave us a comment and support us that way. You could also go to houseoftheunusual.com. We have a free forum there that you could join, talk with some like-minded people. There's some great conversations going on there. Eddie and Todd Machin, he's always on there talking about sea monkeys and robots and all kinds of stuff that we love. So head on over there, join it. We have a free mailing list. And if you'd like to hear us talk about any particular subjects, drop us a line on the website and let us know. And if you want to be a guest, let us know that way as well. And so once again, Michael, Chuck, Eddie, thank you guys for being on. This has been an amazing conversation.
One final thing real quick, Michael, if you can, please email me your links so I can include them underneath this video, or I'm sorry, this audio.
Okay, I'll text that. I'll text them to you later on tonight.
Sounds great. And listen, guys.
Okay, have a good night. Bye-bye.
Good night.
All right, good night, guys. Thank you.